that we seek to amplify the voices of brown and black people within our community and to fight for justice on many different fronts, especially when it comes to housing and as it pertains to our environmental issues, as it pertains to our criminal justice, our criminal unjust system, and our education system. We want to fight for justice and uplift those issues that fall underneath those issues. And as we listen together, learn to be educated and learn to organize together and agitate when necessary so that we can move forward. We've been doing this for about 10 years now and have gone through several iterations of who Justice and Beyond is. And now we're in this iteration where the governing model is we have pillars, and pillars are individual people or organizations that have come forward to say, I want to be a part of the planning and vision casting of Justice and Beyond. We meet together on Tuesdays at noon by way of this same Zoom link. And we would love for you to join us if you would help us lead this organization and continue to do what we've been doing for about a decade now. With that said, we're going to go ahead and begin by introducing our panelists tonight. One of our pillars, Miss Belinda Parker Brown, has been the one that has been leading this and putting this together. And so thank you, Belinda. And welcome to you, Belinda. Belinda, would you just tell us real briefly about what we're talking about tonight, and then we'll introduce the panelists, and then we'll go from there, all right?
Thank you so much, Pastor Manning. Thank you, all of Justice and Beyond pillars and participants on tonight. I'm looking forward to this very serious and necessary discussion on tonight, Pastor Manning. I would want to just, iterate on our topic of discussion. It's the criminalization of Black and brown doctors. And I would like for you to go right ahead and introduce Dr. Neil Annette so that he can inform us on what is happening with our Black and brown doctors that are being told that they have to report to prison. They're being told that they can no longer practice medicine. They are, very dedicated and honorable doctors that are having their lives destroyed. And we want to get to the bottom of why this is happening. And we're here to talk about and expose that on Justice and Beyond tonight, Pastor Manning. So thank you so much for allowing us to be able to have this platform with Justice and Beyond.
Thank you. Yes, well, I'll announce let me do something real quick. We thought it was important as we discussed this amongst the pillars, and I think it's important as well too that we would give kind of a disclaimer so that people would know why we're doing this, and that this would also make sure that we stay above board in what we need to do to protect our organization. We know that there are those who will try to attack. And so we have to do all we can to protect ourselves against that. So with that said, we've written a brief statement about this forum on tonight, just to avoid any legal ramifications. Brooke, do you have that statement? Are you able to read it? I did not get it in time, so I wonder if you're able to read that statement. I don't know if Brooke is there.
Oh, there she go.
Yes, Lane, do you have it?
Yeah, I sent it to you. I'm sorry it hasn't.
Can you read it, please?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
just thank you.
Give me a second. Just a sec. Here we are. Tonight, we are sharing the forum to allow one of our pillars to raise and explore an issue of personal and professional importance and concern for her and her colleagues. At this time of increasing use of AI by government and police, pattern in databases of personal and professional actions, the issues tonight will probably be significant for all of us to consider.
All right. Thank you very much, Lane. I appreciate that statement. That's very important. Also, too, as you mentioned that we are in this world of technical and sabotage, I'll say, of Zoom bombing. Just to be very clear, if we should get Zoom bombed as we have before, we would simply ask that you would bear with us and so that while we eliminate the problem, and we will promptly shut down the meeting if we see that sort of interruption. And then if you'll just log back in right soon after that and get back on the forum, we'd appreciate that, realizing that we have blocked that person from getting in. We try to do that up front, but if that happens again, we'll get them off and then get y'all all back on. So thank you. Just be aware of that. All right, very good. Let's introduce our panelists for tonight. Dr. I'm sorry, Ms. Belinda, would you tell me who the first one is?
Okay,
Dr. Arnott?
Pastor Manning, we're trying to get Richard Kaul on. He said that he's in the waiting room. He's one of our presenters too tonight.
Okay, very good. I know that Dr. Michael Jones, is he one of the presenters?
No, he's not. He's not one of the presenters.
But okay. So who do we have first?
Dr. Neil Anand.
Okay. Dr. Arnard, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, okay. Hi. Nice to meet everyone here. It's a real pleasure. I don't know if you ever met Zena Crenshaw-Logal, but you know, I work with her often, and you know, I would like to dedicate this meeting toward her and what she tried to accomplish in her life, which is to obtain justice for the whole planet. But basically, what we found, you know, is that we filed Freedom of Information Act requests, and we found out that the government was collecting data through our health records, through insurance companies, through Medicare and Medicaid into one central database called the Healthcare Fraud Preventive Partnership. And they were using it to build artificial intelligence. That artificial intelligence was designed to do something called predictive policing. And the way with predictive policing is if they would identify patients who they the government target, you know, or identified as drug-seeking patients, and then they would collect data on doctors and eliminate the doctors who were treating those patients, or they would look at doctors who were making a certain amount of money or a variety of other factors and discriminate against those physicians based on data that they have collected. And then they started using artificial intelligence to analyze all that data that they collected. You understand? The way artificial intelligence works, it's there's two types of artificial intelligence. One's generative artificial intelligence, and one's predictive artificial intelligence. And generative artificial intelligence is the one, you know, people are talking about now, where the artificial intelligence creates its own, you know, it's a very higher level of artificial intelligence than predictive artificial intelligence. Predictive artificial intelligence, I can explain really quickly so people can understand how prediction works. Do you remember when you had children, if you had kids, or when you were a child, your mom would make 3 dots and say, connect the dots, and you'll make a circle, or connect the dots, you can make a triangle, or something like that. Well, what prediction does is you have multiple dots on a multiple pieces of information, and you try to fit a line to the curve. It's called fit the plot of the curve. And you know, in the 1800s, they were able to predict the path of the planets. Okay, and what AI and all these machines, what they want to do is collect as much data as it can, and as much information about the human language and everything as it can, whatever you search, whatever Google search, your Facebook information, all the information it can collect on you, and then generate artificial intelligence from that, because it knows so much about human beings and whatnot. Now, what we have a document from the Freedom of Information Act requests, as well as some documents from Congress people, that in 2009, the government wanted to do predictive policing. So it funded a bunch of companies. We don't know who the companies are, but they funded a bunch of companies to try to get involved in predictive policing. The reason predictive policing is significant to AI, I'll make the connection so you guys understand, is to predict human behavior, you have to model the human mind. Correct? And what the prediction, so the predictive behavior, and when they turned on their artificial intelligence and they said start doing predictive policing, they put the predictive policing in the worst areas hit by the opiate crisis or criminality or whatever. And what happened is the AI, based on prediction, would say, well, if the person arrested was a Black person before, we'll arrest them again because they're higher likely to recommit a criminal offense, and or Latino or these poor communities, and they would arrest a lot of these people because their artificial intelligence predicted that. So the cops would go and arrest those people, but the crime kept increasing. But the convictions, the AI kept measuring the success by the convictions or how much money it was collecting in terms of restitution and other things. That was his measurement of success. But nobody ever asked the question in the first place is, can artificial intelligence predict what a human being can do anyway? Or can think anyway? So that's one issue. And the other issue is that over the last 10 years, the data has shown that the artificial intelligence does not perform at statistical parity. Statistical parity means that it will treat everyone similarly. That's not built into that. So, it's going to become a crisis when all this becomes revealed, because if you look at, I'll tell you a big AI company. It's Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now you might think, how's Blue Cross Blue Shield an artificial intelligence company? Well, artificial intelligence is a math thing, and a math thing is run on computers, right? And insurance companies are math companies, and they collect a lot of information on human beings through their medical records and the diseases and whatever the doctor puts in the medical records. So they know a lot of information about human beings, the diseases, a bunch of factors. It tries to use that to make predictions about human behavior and human beings and whatnot. It leads to a lot of questions. One, does it even work? Two, if it's supposed to work and reduce crime, why is then the BOP doesn't work? Because what's the point of the BOP is hopefully to rehabilitate someone, correct? So that means the rehabilitation isn't working. So that's not proper. So it leads to a whole bunch of problems and questions that these that our own government caused with these private companies, and it never tested any of these companies' products. So it's created a lot of liability for these equations and whatnot. And now the problem is these artificial intelligences have become strong and smart. Now, the reason I know a lot of this is I went to a Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which is a computer school. I used to build computers when I was younger. I used to program when I was a kid and stuff, but then I went into medicine, so a lot of that was lost, but I knew math and some philosophy and whatnot. So I knew kind of what the government was doing didn't make sense to me or was be wrong. And they've done it. And now the problem with the artificial intelligence is in a few years, it'll be strong enough, as intelligent as a human being. And the good thing about the artificial intelligence is if it's built properly, it can help a lot of human beings. If it's built with human rights in mind, if it's built to cure people and help people, it will help people. But if it's meant to punish people or kill people or hurt people, then you're going to have that Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator movie. So it's really important that the people who control artificial intelligence are healers and civil rights people. Otherwise, we can all kill ourselves.
Well, let me ask this. I think that, you know, so AI can be a very significant and very clear and present danger if put in the wrong hands, as it were. I guess what I would like to know is, how has AI really contributed to and the criminalization of Black and brown, just kind of linking us back to our general topic tonight of the criminalization of Black and brown doctors?
So they does two types of tracking: person tracking or place tracking. They can look at a place and do some analysis there of the data. But if you're looking at a poor neighborhood and you're saying, go arrest a bunch of people and put up some stats, that's what they do. I don't, here, I'll explain it in terms of a movie so that you'll understand it. There's a Brazilian movie called Elite Squad that came out, and I'll tell, it was a sensation about corruption. And why does the cops become corrupt? And why do they think the way they do from their perspective? Why do they become corrupt all of a sudden? So in the movie, they explain that the Pope is coming to Rio de Janeiro and he wants to stay in the slum where there's a lot of shooting and killings and whatnot going on. So what they do, the government does is says, well, we can't have the Pope come, and then he hears all these shootings and whatnot, and we got to clean up the area. So they went in and then they shoot a lot of people and kill a lot of people and try to calm the place down and get so scared of the cops so that when the Pope comes to visit, he can have a nice sleep and he thinks that everything's normal. They did the same thing when the Chinese premier came to San Francisco. They cleaned up the whole of San Francisco. I don't know if you heard about that. Did you hear about this?
Dr. Neil, let's move it, and maybe Dr. Norm.
I'm trying to explain the AI, how the AI works. So
yeah.
So it tells you to go into a certain place and clean up that area or do whatever to those people and whatnot. But a computer is telling that to happen.
Right. Okay. I think we get that. Yes. Ms. Belinda.
Yes. Thank you, Pastor Manning. I would like for we also have Dr. Linda Cheek. You know, she was a victim of indictment that just basically ruined her life. And what we're saying is that you know, we want you know, to expose that they are targeted. You know, I know something that we all are familiar with. When certain communities, we call it Terry stopping. And over here in St. Tammany Parish, we have a certain area that's drug infested, is poverty, dilapidated community. But it's like, you know, those people are basically targeted. You know, most of them are in and out of jail, and you know, and they're Black, you know, and brown people that live in that area. So what we're saying is that now when they see doctors that are very successful, like a doctor like you know, here in Louisiana, and I don't know if he's on with us, but you know, Dr. Jones, a very successful doctor, you know, he was very active and supportive of, you know, the community. He done some phenomenal things here in the community. And then we had another doctor, Dr. Akula, that was another very successful doctor, very wealthy, very supportive of the community, putting on community events, going and doing Katrina. You know, he just got all types of awards for being able to assist and help people during that time of a crisis. So, and then when they see that these doctors become very
Sure.
successful, they use this AI that Dr. Neil just tried to break down for us. They target them, and they target them with just some outrageous statistics or whatever, and then they bring these charges against them. So I want them to tell you, Dr. Norm, tell you how this happened to him. Dr. Norm, are you on with us? What about Richard? Richard, are you here? Richard Kaul. You have to unmute your mic and come in, Richard.
Yeah.
And Dr. Norman
There's
Clement
Richard.
is on.
Yeah,
He is on.
Okay, great.
We'll speak to the video. Yeah,
Okay.
a bit bright there. Okay.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, but I'm here.
Go
Yes.
ahead, Richard.
Well, how to start? When Belinda asked me to talk on this Zoom meeting, it really was with regards to the case of Dr. Shiva Akula, who is a physician, an Indian physician who's now sitting in a jail in Louisiana, having been, quote, convicted of healthcare fraud back in November of last year. And all the things that Neil was talking about with regards to data analytics and computer identification, Dr. Akula's case represents a case that's currently before us, where a doctor became very successful. He became very successful not just as an infectious disease specialist, but also in the setting up of hospice care centers in Louisiana. And, he'd built this business up over 25 to 30 years. And the insurance companies didn't want to pay him. And so what they did, which is what they've been doing, across the country to doctors now for really the last decade and a half, 2 decades, is they had the prosecutors bring a false case against him. And he was indicted back in August 2021, and the judge that sat on his case had multiple conflicts of interest in that he owned shares and stocks in various insurance companies and banks that Dr. Akula had been in conflict with. And Dr. Akula tried to have the judge disqualified, and the judge refused to disqualify himself. And so Dr. Akula then filed a petition in the United States Supreme Court, asking them to intervene and to have the judge disqualified. There were some technical issues with the submission that he filed, and they then returned it, and it's recently been resubmitted. But in the meantime, he was fast-tracked through that judge's court. His criminal trial lasted less than a week. I wasn't there in the court, but I understand Belinda was, and I received feedback as to what went on in the courts. But in essence, the judge prevented him from presenting experts on his behalf and restricted his ability to defend himself against the government's claims, really setting the jury up and the court up for a guilty verdict. And that guilty verdict came back on November the 6th, and he was then placed on bond, had an ankle bracelet put on him, and was restricted to certain areas. He then received notice from the court in late December, early January, that he had allegedly violated his bond. And he appeared in court on January the 12th, and they took him into custody on that date. And the truth of the matter really is that he had not violated his bond, but the judge who sat on the case knew that Dr. Akula was pursuing this petition in the Supreme Court. And, it appears to me, and I think that it is the case, that he wanted to, get him into a jail cell as soon as possible to silence him. And so, over the time from when he was indicted, he was working with Belinda and the organization. And fortunately, we've been able to keep the petition in the Supreme Court alive. And, waiting to see what they say. His sentencing is coming up on February the 21st. And, if it doesn't go his way, he's looking at a lengthy jail term, really, for just practicing medicine. Because I've seen the file, I know the case, and he did nothing wrong. And so his case is really a current example of this war on doctors and the, I suppose, the viciousness with which the insurance industry, is going at doctors simply because they want to increase corporate and executive profit at the expense of the medical profession. So, his case is, is one of many. It's just one case that, to which people have actually paid a lot of attention. But
let me ask this question.
But there are a lot of other doctors who are now sitting in jail who didn't have, who did not have their case brought to the public's attention in the way that Dr.
Yeah.
Pierce.
And I believe that. Hey, this is Annette Davis.
Please. Hello?
Yeah, let Dr. Jackson go ahead. I think she's having some connection problems. Go ahead, Pastor Manning. Go ahead.
You were so spot on, right? But here's what hasn't been addressed, right? What needs to be addressed is there is a monopoly now in the healthcare industry. Okay, it's not.
Let me ask, who is this speaking now?
This is Annette Davis Jackson. She's on the panel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the monopoly of the healthcare industry to guide insurance, to get rid of all the private physician doctors like Dr. Akula and the rest of them. So we need to deal with the monopoly, because monopolies in the United States of America, they're illegal. They're illegal. And then we need to go to the crippling of patients' health care. When you remove these doctors away from their practices, then we need to go to the crippling of family and how the DEA and the DOJ are trying to get rid of these doctors because they're monetizing it. That's a part of their program to get money. And then we have to go to forfeiture. We have to go to forfeiture, in which they're taking away everything that they have, because they're going into systems to find out what do they have, what properties do they own, how much money do they have. So it's a bigger system than this. And then we go to the weaponization, which Belinda Parker Brown talks about all the time. The weaponization is real, but the real is it's to take away and really get rid of citizens, right, who should be living. And the only way that they can live is they need their doctors. It's a bigger area than that. And then it's about government witnesses. They're taking witnesses and they're paying them as government sponsored witnesses, okay, to turn on people, and they have no proof. And
Dr. Jackson.
Yeah, she's having connection problems.
Okay. Okay.
that's all I'm gonna say.
I'm sorry. Was that it?
No, that was it. That was it for now.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. My question is, and what I'm understanding is that this is not just targeted at Black and brown doctors, but is pervasive throughout the medical industry, and really targeting all doctors and indiscriminate of race. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely, you can say that, Pastor Manning. But to go along with that, me, I feel most comfortable with my doctor if he looks like me or if she looks like me. And what's happening is that, when you look at it, the to target, we're already limited. I was hoping that Dr. Anand Dr. Neal shared those stats when we actually look at it and see the percentage of Black and brown doctors that are taken out of the profession. Where does that leave a patient like me that would feel most comfortable with a doctor that looks like me? So I'm very concerned about this matter. And I really want to hear more from our doctors. I see that Dr. Linda Sheik is with us. She is the CEO and the president of Doctors of Courage. And she's been in this movement for quite some time. Dr. Cheek, can you open up your mic and speak?
And Dr. Cheek, welcome as well too. What I would love for the people to hear as well too is what is the excuse me, I'm sorry. What is the solution and where can we take action to make sure that people like Dr. Akula, like Dr. Michael Jones, can get justice? What I think we're recognizing the issue. Where do we go to move the needle on this so that we can create policy and change policy so that this doesn't continue to happen? Where's the remedy?
Okay, yeah, I'd be happy to. And the main thing is, and this is something that I told my patients back in the early 2000s, is they are attacking, and there are several categories. Minority is one, independent physicians is another. And the reason why that people are not realizing is that we are the compassionate physicians in the profession, and we are the ones that are usually serving what I call the expendable populations. And those populations are the minorities, the government insured, the uninsured, and the elderly. And by eliminating those populations, the government is therefore trying to save money. They're laughing all the way to the bank with this. They also do minority discrimination through hiring physicians in certain areas, especially like New York City and so on. SUNY is a really bad place. They bring in, and this isn't necessarily just Black physicians, but people of color from other nations. They bring these in, bring in foreign doctors to serve as slave labor, because that's what medical school and residency programs are, is slave labor. They act as slave labor, but then if they maintain their practice in America and start a practice in America, once they are up and running, they get attacked, they get put in prison, and then they fill a prison bed, which is another money maker for somebody. It's not money making for the government because the government is paying, but the prisons are now privately owned, and it is a government prison collaboration to give them money because it's taxpayer money. These people that run the government, it's not their personal money, it's our money. Okay, so they don't mind paying the private industries of the prison systems. So all of this is basically against minorities of the United States, not just minority doctors. Yes, they target minority doctors because they are oftentimes the most compassionate treating these expendable populations. So
Very good.
everyone is a target. Okay, that's one thing I like. And oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you make a very good point, because one thing we always have to emphasize and make sure that we understand is that when it comes to racism and the foot of these racist industries being on the necks of Black and brown people, particularly, we've got to understand that all of them work together. If you got a foot and you got five toes, and it's on, you got the foot on the neck, they're all working together. So not only is the racism and undercurrent in the medical system, it also is what's driving our criminal justice system. So if they have to lock up the doctors and get them into private prisons to make money, it all is supporting our capitalistic society that's all undergirded by racism. So it's all interconnected, and we have to always see that link that's there.
Right.
Thank you for that, Pastor Manning. Could we have Dr. Norm open up his mic and talk a little bit about why that's important? And he's the CEO and the owner of Inside the Norms.
You're within the norms.
Yeah, you're within the norms.
Can you hear me?
Hey, yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, sir. Yes.
All right. This is You're Within the Norms, and this blog actually started as a result of my pharmacy being targeted back in 2019, and what simply happened is that we were accused of manufacturing and drug trafficking, diversion, all kind of nonsense that didn't make sense, because we kept detailed records, and we simply we took care of business, and we knew what we were doing. Okay, and I had a pharmacy. It's called Pronto Pharmacy here in Tampa. We were in business 11 years, and so upon the raid that took place,
talk about how successful you were, Dr. Norm.
Oh yeah, we were very successful. We made millions, and one of the things I did, I always dressed just like I am now, and one of the things I did was I donated a lot of money. So I turn around and I don't live in a fancy car or fancy jewelry and all that kind of stuff, or have blings on me and that kind of stuff.
Tell them about some of the things that you donated to.
All right, sure. We donated to the University of Michigan School of Dentistry for diversity and equity recruitment, and an endowment fund called the Lee Jones Endowment Fund. And we fully about, excuse me, getting over this COVID for a couple of months. But anyway, we donated about $80,000 total. My fraternity was getting ready to lose a house in Tallahassee, and I, of course, saved that place and donated there to the National Dental Association. We gave almost like $20,000 or $30,000 to help run, where they have the mobile dental vehicle and stuff. Florida A&M University School of Pharmacy. I'm a pharmacist, and I graduated from FAMU, and we donated money there. Also, we sponsored a program called Sound Mind, Sound Body, and just that little bit of money we put in that program, that was a program that was designed to correct some of the inequities in high school football, where folks were coming out of who played high school football and they weren't being properly recruited or being looked at. So my son created a program. He played at Hampton University, and they created a program for these young high school football, give them, show them how to get the grades. They went through the steps, and suddenly all these college coaches showed up, and we put them through the paces, and we entered a number. I think.
But go right ahead, Dr. Norm. I'm trying to move.
People
right.
40% of the NFL people were in or came out of sound body, sound mind. And so we did a lot. We did a lot. But anyways, what happens is what these guys are doing. So essentially, what they've done, and what we have identified in this blog when I first published, is they're targeting our success, and our success is this is not about over prescribing or over not paying attention to the law. These doctors are paying attention to the law. Their prescribing is indicated based on the disease and disease process. This is about seizing their assets, and this is the game that they play. The war on drugs, essentially, and particularly with Black and brown people, it was done. It has been used to strip Black folk of pretty Black professionals of generational wealth. And that's something that's serious. In other words, we see throughout about 20 years, no one said anything about this. This was just going on, and our media has been an absolute, and that's why I appreciate you, Pastor, here, that the media, what we call the major Black media, has been an absolute failure. We've gone into what I call academic jealousy and insecurity, and say, "Oh, you guys are doctors. Who the devil you think you are?" And we got family members. When you get your family, you get targeted like this. I told you, you are nothing, and all that kind of foolishness.
The media certainly is complicit in so much of this.
Absolutely. So and then the other thing too is that we're easier enforcement target. The war on drugs has come to the doctor's office because doctors don't shoot back. We don't have M16s and AR-15s and M60 machine guns and submarines and those kind of things to transfer. So it's easier to redefine medical procedure, which law enforcement has done, and criminalize that than it is going after the big cartels, where in fact the drug cartels they're in bed with the cartels. They're in there sleeping with the cartel's prostitutes. That's not our words. They're saying that. And what has happened is that because of the failure, there has been no diminishing in the amount of illicit product getting in here, and these DEA guys being paid off, that their failure has resulted in them coming after the doctors. In other words, the DEA and the DOJ has become a criminal enterprise of the United States government. And this is designed. Who would you rather go after, Pastor? Would you have to go after Neil in the Hood or Neil MD? Would you rather go after Richard deep inside the hood, or Richard Kaul MD, MPH? Right. Which one will enhance your career? So this is a career enhancement. These guys are using this, and it's creative design. And what they're saying is it doesn't matter whether you are compliant or anything like that, or you follow the rules and everything. And they say that. And we put this in our blog, youarewithinthenorms.com. And in fact, we just recently published an article of just today. And let me show you, this was an article that was observation done by a physician named Unch Blackstone. She's a twin. She has a twin sister who's also a physician. She had followed in her mother's footsteps. They wrote a book called The Legacy of Racism, and also The Legacy of Racism, and the interest of Black physicians reckons racism in medicine. And the interesting thing about this book, as she goes into the history, and the title in this article was in the Washington Post, says how thousands of, and this is what it says, how thousands of tens of thousands of Black doctors simply vanished by Linda Ulch. And this was done because what was done was back in there were 7 medical schools in this country, 7 at least Black, or 155, 7 were Black medical schools. and they were training doctors just after post-Civil War.
I got about 30 seconds before I have to move on, my friend.
All right. The point is that these doctors were these doctors were very successful. Then comes along eugenics. We have to take them, that sort of thing. Where we were not only diminished, but people of color all over the world, part of that colonial attitude, were diminished and stuff. So thousands of at least 5 of these medical schools closed. The important thing is that this is all a part of the same plan. And we found these connections between what this country was doing, a guy named Abraham Flexner was doing, versus, and they were working with, guess who? The Nazis. I mean, really, German Nazis. The Carnegie Foundation.
Thank you, my friend.
Rockefeller Foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate that so much. So I think as you draw the dots together in getting this full picture, and what I'm understanding even more is that the interconnectivity of this from the mega industry of the medical field and having a monopoly and wanting to push out all the primary care physicians that have our smaller offices and trying to kind of funnel this into the bigger industries, and at the same time working to really annihilate and just get rid of doctors, no matter what, these smaller doctors, and also criminalize them and get them into the private prison system. It is all connected. As we hear this, what is the solution? And for that, Dr. Belinda, I want to give my friend Dr. Michael Jones just a minute to talk. And I do mean that because we don't have much time. I'm sorry, Dr. Jones, but we do want to get to questions about 6 o'clock.
I appreciate that. I would like for Dr. Jones to speak, but I think Dr. Linda Cheek had her hand up with just one
sure.
comment. Okay,
go ahead, Dr. Cheek.
You got to unmute yourself, Dr. Cheek.
Yeah, the answer is to end the discrimination of drugs. The war on drugs is a purely racist accomplishment over the last 100 years. And if you just notice, just law enforcement attacking blacks because they think they might be cocaine driven. I mean, all of this is just basic propaganda against drugs to attack minorities. And so we have to stop the war against drugs. And the way to do that is to show that drugs are not the cause of addiction. And that's what I do through my courses, through my education, through my websites, and so on. And we need to get the Controlled Substance Act repealed. When we get the Controlled Substance Act repealed, then we will end the border crisis. We will end the attacks on doctors, because they're using that against the doctors to put the doctors in prison and take all their access. We will end the overdoses. We will end the poisonous contributions of drugs that if you just look at prohibition, when we ended prohibition, you no longer had wood alcohol killing people. You no longer had moonshine, except now we can get it in Franklin County, sorry. We just have to do the same thing with all drugs. No drug causes addiction. The war on drugs was a purely racist agenda from the word go. So that's the solution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. That's a viewpoint worth studying. Yes.
And I have to say this, right? We're forgetting the lawyers, okay? We're forgetting the lawyers who represent these doctors, right? And what they're doing is they're turning against the doctors.
They ride the gravy train just like the DOJ does. It's all one big happy fraternity.
Wow.
Buck hustle.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you ready for me there? You ready for me there, Pastor?
Yeah.
Let me finish this. Saying that they're going to represent the doctors, they take the doctors' money and then they go do ex parte communications with the judges and the DOJ and the government-sponsored witnesses. We are forgetting about the lawyers who are all a part of this, and they're making money to also put these doctors in, and the doctors have paid them millions of dollars. Thank you.
Wow, good point. Thank you. Dr. Jones, and they got 2 minutes, Dr. Jones.
Okay,
Sorry,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
for everyone who's in listening, almost all of the participants who participate in the panel know me, and they know what I'm about and what I'm concerned with. And for those who don't know me, the quick, simple thing is very successful triple board certified cardiologist who, after giving away $250,000 of my own money each year, sending kids to college who were not my kids, providing free transportation throughout my community, it was felt that I've made too much money and that evidently I was not in the right group, that I was an independent physician. So they sent the hounds after me and they got me. It was not even difficult for them to get me. It's never going to be difficult for them to get us. Dr. Neil Anand, Dr. Norman Clement, it is easy to get us, okay? The reason why is because there is a flexibility that is built into the laws of the United States that allow criminal penalties for some, civil penalties for others. So Black and brown doctors who are felt to be doing something wrong, we are handled criminally rather than civilly. But even prior to that, the issue as to whether or not we're going to be even investigated falls into what could be considered a racial dynamic. Black and brown people, as I believe it was Linda Cheek or someone else said, take care of large numbers of Black and brown people. Those people are going to have government insurance. Well, guess what? If I provide private care for cash, or if I do just strictly insurance-based care, there is not a criminal penalty to me for, quote, fraud. There frequently is not a criminal penalty within that circumstance for overuse or overprescribing of medications. But once I'm doing that with Medicaid and Medicare as the insurer, there are all of these penalties that go all the way to what happened to many of us: bankruptcy, imprisonment, your life turned upside down such that you can never reclaim the status that you once had. But I want to make sure that we don't conflate this issue and make it into something it is not. This issue is about the laws being applied unfairly and incorrectly. This is not about things such as there is no war on drugs, there is no opiate epidemic. That is not the truth. There absolutely is an opiate epidemic. There is absolutely a need for some doctors to face penalties for doing criminal activities. But when it comes to prescribing medications, both those doctors who have been labeled as drug dealers, as well as those doctors who are prescribing care in other ways, that should not be a criminal penalty. These cases are being originated out of the DOJ's office, out of the district attorney's office, out of the FBI's office, not out of a medical entity's office. It should be that a medical entity has to say a doctor did something wrong before a administrative review is going to happen within a legal or administrative circumstance. So what we're facing, quite honestly, what we need right now, what we need the most is we need to first stop splitting things. Please understand, we are all in the same boat. Those doctors who were convicted for fraud, like me, and those doctors who are being convicted of running pill mills, like I believe perhaps Dr. Linda Cheek and some others, and Norman Clement, we need to stay in the same pool with each other and understand, yes, the CSA needs to be removed, but not only does the CSA need to be removed, we need legislation to remove all of the criminal penalties associated with the doctor simply practicing medicine. That's where this is. But we also need to really stay away from the we need to stay away from what appears to be inappropriate and unsubstantiated claims towards the government's just overall misdeeds. We can handle through a narrower circumstance. And I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jones. We appreciate that. And you know, so often those in the medical field know those acronyms, CSA, and we've said before, just to reiterate, it's Controlled Substance Act.
CSA
and we do.
Yes. Could I say something here?
Yeah,
Could I say
go
something
ahead,
here?
Dr. Norms, and then we wanna, Pastor Manning got to take it to
Michael
the
Jones
question.
makes a very interesting point, and that is in the design. And I came across this last week in the design of the Controlled Substance Act in terms of those penalties. It was Richard Nixon made it very specific within that law, in those laws, to prosecute, easier to prosecute hippies and black people. The Controlled
Thank you, Dr.
Substance
Norms.
Act was designed to, and that whole DEA thing was designed to thwart the movement of the civil rights and the upward movement of black folk.
Thank you
And
for
he
that,
did
Dr.
not like
Norms. We got
hippies.
to move the agenda.
Yeah,
We got,
we're going
Pastor
to move
Manning, we
to,
got to go to
yes.
Q&A. We
Thank
got
you.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely. Thank you, Doctor. We're going to
Thank you.
move to questions. For those of you, let's see, Valerie, are you there? Do you see any questions in the chat that we need to answer? And then we'll ask for questions audibly from anyone that's in the forum. Valerie, you there tonight? I thought you were.
We have a hand up. I'm looking at one hand up.
Okay.
Is it Lane?
Lane?
Yeah, Lane.
Lane, go ahead, Lane.
Lane, you know, there's in terms of looking for solutions, I think that we are at probably the tip or a very important flux point of a kind of a perfect storm that started with the war on drugs in terms of the involvement between the DOJ and the government and other government agencies, and the political purposes of that are really all about racism, and going, you know, taking out people's, raising the specter of, you know, the criminal people of color and in poor communities. I think Dr. Anand, in your introductory comments, you identified two things which, even without, and I'm
You're going in and out, Lane.
in, oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
can you hear me now better?
In and out.
Yeah, maybe just sum that up with those what your final comments are.
Dr. Anand pointed out two there, so I'm thinking, what I'm saying, suggesting is a solution or a place to look for solutions is to identify the biases that were built in to the program to begin with, but also in 2019 with the beginning of this predictive policing effort. Because Dr. Anand, you identified that they targeted, which is what AI is used to do, they targeted drug-seeking patients, and they targeted doctors with certain prescribing patterns. And as you know, of course, AI is used primarily in terms of these large, huge databases of profit and prescribing patterns are used to seek out and to identify behaviors, and so all I'm trying to suggest is that if they started off in 2019, as you stated, Dr. Anand, by looking at, you know, they want to get this program underway. So where are they going to look? There's a huge scream about crime, so they're going to look in high crime areas. Well, where are the high crime areas, etc.? I mean, you've already identified this, but I think that we have to try to find a way, and it's really got to be, there has to be some kind of investigation, and I think it has to. My question is, who in Congress? And don't believe me, I'm not suggesting that we're going to find all our answers in Congress by any means, but who in Congress is receptive to the biases that we are building into these AI programs, and they're compounding.
Okay. Thank you, Elaine.
I've already put in a request for a meeting with Senator Raphael Warnock for February the 26th. His office has notified me that they are aware of my request, and they will let me know whether or not they want to actually meet with me. That is by no means saying that I will be meeting with Raphael Warnock. I have, as I've told everyone, since I started this over 10 years ago, my issue started back in 2014. So when all of this started, I started reaching out to people. And I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I'm just telling you the truth. I've reached out to Troy Carter. I reached out to Cedric Richmond. I reached out to the gentleman who is the senator for Louisiana, up north of Louisiana, excuse me, in North Louisiana. I reached out to Benjamin Crump. I reached out to
Dr. Michael.
Yeah, I've reached out to Al Sharpton. I reached out to Jesse Jackson. I've reached out
I think
to
Dr. Michael. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
But you know what? I will say that the key here is that they have, Neil talked about the AI, and you have to attack the AI because they're running off of computer systems, and their computer systems can be programmed, okay, to get rid of doctors. Okay, so if we're gonna do anything, we have to target also the computer system that tries to put doctors into prison, because their computer systems are foul and they are wrong. Their computer systems are wrong, and they don't even juxtapose that with patient safety. They don't juxtapose that with anything like that. So we have to challenge their system because it's a computerized system that somebody else built. We need to find out who built their computerized system to target doctors.
Well, we found that they're designed
Can
to
I
be
add
wrong,
something?
and Dr. Anand has done extensive research in that area.
Can I add something?
Let me say this real quick, real quick. I think that's Brooke. Dr. Michael, I do want to say, how do we collectively work with you to get that meeting with one of those representatives or senators? Because it's one thing for you to go alone, and it's another thing for us to insist upon that in person or over the Zoom meeting together. Is better, for us to go as a collective than and as individuals. So we, definitely want to go alongside you. I mean, I'm sure you're probably already coalescing with others to go.
Yes. So, Reverend, I'm always looking for you in Justice and Beyond, as you know, a pillar of Justice and Beyond. So I am always interested in having you guys work with us, work with me. The dilemma, unfortunately, is we have to have a very concise message, okay? And splitting things to bring in a lot of ancillary issues is not going to work. It's not going to work because it's too much. Okay, so really and truly, what I've told everybody, and some of these people here, I've sent them messages saying, "Hey, I'm looking for this meeting with Senator Warnock, but I'm only going to include people who are going to stick to the points." The point is, we know that a Black doctor or a brown doctor is 3 times more likely to face an investigation and result in criminal penalties than a white doctor. We know that 70,000 doctors and other medical entities are excluded and have been sanctioned. Okay, we know that means that 140 million episodes of care are lost to our communities, the country, okay, each year. We need people and say this resoundingly. This is Michael Jones. This is not about Norman.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for making that point. That is what Dr. Jones is saying right now, Pastor Manning, is that the whole world needs to know. And that's the reason why we're saying that the most important thing for us to do is to unite and come together to meet with our state representatives, our Congress people, the president's administration. We're crafting a letter to meet with the Civil Rights Division in the DOJ, because they have to know that this is a serious concern. It's an epidemic.
Absolutely.
And the attack on our Black and brown doctors is real. And not only that we know, we can prove that in the case of white doctors, this is a civil infraction, not a criminal. Okay, so thank you for
Yeah.
that.
And Dr. Jones is so correct. You know, when it comes to speaking to people and organizing and educating, we do have to have one succinct message or the package our messaging in a succinct way, I'll say, and not get all over the place. That's extremely important. Brooke, were you going to say something?
Sure. That's
Yeah, I
true. But
was
what
just
you guys
going to,
have to also know, go ahead. What you also have to know is that it's not segmented to one doctor. It's segmented to the commonality, okay, of all the doctors. And so a commonality report needs to be presented because Raphael Warnock is in Georgia. But guess what? There are other doctors who are in Louisiana. Look at Dr. Akula, in Louisiana. So you got to not only get to the Democratic legislators, but you have to get to the Republican legislators too. So just remember that this is not segmented to just one party. This is segmented to the whole United States of America because doctors are being targeted all over the country based on the monopoly and the different trend of the way that healthcare is going, and healthcare is merging with insurance.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We
can I,
must we must always remember that the devise and the scheme of those that are these seeking to divide us is to figure out those ways that they can divide us, whether it be by state borders or whatever else. So we have to be able to get past that. Brooke, what were we gonna say?
yeah, I just think that this is a simple case of a new tool for racism because it's the same thing as traffic lights when they misrepresent, when they make every Black person look exactly the same, right? It's the same stuff with AI.
Stuff. Yeah.
That it's
When we
not.
fight together, we'll win.
That's right. But we've got to fight all of AI and its racist tendencies, right?
Well,
And we've got to get
But
we've
Brooke,
got to get ahead of AI. We right now is the time, if ever. We already behind the eight ball
Exactly.
with
Well,
this, and so we've got to figure out a way to think of these things before it happens and really crack down on it. We've already let it snowball, and we've got to get together on this. So let me see if there's any other questions. I know there probably is. Let me ask Sister Belinda or Brooke. Do you see any questions in the chat or any hands up at this time? Any questions from anybody?
Dr. Jones has his hand up.
yeah.
Dr.
So look, I
Jones
just
and
wanted to,
Dr. Norms have their hand up.
yeah,
Go ahead, Dr. Jones.
I wanted to finish up what I was saying earlier. So what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to go into whoever will listen to us who has a platform, because we really don't have a significant platform. We've been talking about this. I've been in this for 10 years. So what we have now is the opportunity, hopefully with Senator Warnock's office, is to go in and say, look, we know that our population, the country, is losing 140 million episodes of care. We know that those 140 million episodes of care are because of doctors and entities that have been sanctioned. We also know that of those entities that have been sanctioned, that those entities are being sanctioned unfairly. It's independent doctors, it's Black and brown doctors, it's older doctors, it's doctors who are taking care of the sickest of the sick. We need to be able to go in and make an argument that both is compassionate and beneficial to the US government. When we're doing that, we need to really stay away from what many of you all are doing. All of this stuff worrying with AI and making this a strictly racial issue, you really need to stop that. You need to make this an issue about how can the whole of the United States government, the United States population, benefit from people who have been trained beyond training. Okay, it is unreasonable just on its face to believe that doctors who have gone through high school, college, medical school, all of this, and kept their noses clean, all of a sudden when they're making 6 figures a year, they decide they want to be drug dealers. This is insanity.
It is.
So,
it is.
Okay.
In fact, what I call this is.
Belinda, could you please stop like that?
No, hold on, everybody. Hold on, everybody. We really wanted to take some questions from those who are in the forum tonight and see if there's any, for clarification's sake. And everybody has their, their varying opinions of how to tackle this issue, but we do, this is one that is worth discussing further, because I think, what we also have to realize is that when Black and brown doctors are eliminated, it results in more adverse medical defects for people, especially older individuals who don't trust doctors of another color. What do they do then? My grandmother is not going to go and feel comfortable seeing a white doctor. So we're increasing the rates of death amongst our older people by getting rid of doctors, and that's all a part of the scheme, if you will, of the plot. Let me ask if there's any more.
We have another important person on the call, Pastor Mannings, and that is Angela Green, and she wants to speak on behalf of what she have been doing to help us in this endeavor. So Angela, if you dare, please come open up your mic and speak. I want to give you the opportunity.
Angela, are you there?
Hello. Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, yes, I heard someone say earlier that the media was complicit in this attack against doctors. So I wanted to speak on behalf of the media. As someone who represents WAOK radio station, which is the oldest Black radio station in Atlanta, we took up the cause of doing panel discussions with doctors, a couple of them who are on this particular Zoom call tonight. I was first made aware of this about a year ago, about what was happening with doctors, particularly in this particular case. I had been made aware about 2 years prior to that about another separate instance where doctors were being attacked as well, which is how I was able to connect the dots when I heard the call about this. So Dr. Norman Clement was the one who called our station to let us know about this attack that was happening with Black doctors. So as a result of that, we had conducted a total of about 4 panels. I think there might have been 5, but I know at least 4 panel discussions that we have done on the criminalization of Black and brown doctors. The last one we held was last Thursday on the 25th, whatever date the 25th was of January. And Reverend Warnock's office was invited to that panel discussion, but they were not present. So as a result of that, I got a call Friday from the White House, letting me know that they were aware of the concerns that we had raised in this panel discussion, and were letting me know that they were going to be contacting me this week about setting up a policy meeting to speak with them about putting together some policy, because they have been aware about what has been happening and how AI has been used with attack against doctors. And they were interested in finding ways and strategies that they could try to come up with some policies to address this. So that was just as a result of the work that we have been doing with constantly raising this issue. So once the issue was brought forth, we were committed to keeping it going forward as long as we could and as much as we could until we got some sort of resolution, hopefully in the form of some sort of legislation. So it looks like we're moving in that direction.
That's good news. That's good news. Thank you for sharing.
That,
I mean, and here's the thing that I'm getting about AI. I mean, AI is going to affect many different systems, if you will, and the laws and policies that apply to it are going to be different throughout those systems, and it cannot just be one fits all. It has to be uniquely focused upon those different institutions and systems that it affects, whether it's the medical field, whether it's the higher education field. It's going to affect every system. So it is something that we need to pay attention to. Let me ask again, are there any questions from any of our those in attendance in the forum?
Yeah.
If not, everybody, if there's no other questions, I'm sorry?
I wanted
Dr.
to say, let people know that one of the ways we can keep track of this is go to our blog. We try to put them, it's called You're Within the Norms. Right now, we've been working on a series, we call it Tulsification. Tulsification of Black and brown doctors. Tulsification is
Well, you know what? I have
specific
to.
people.
Yes, this is Annette David say this.
Look at it.
One at a time. Hold on. We'll let him finish.
And so I just wanted to point that out, that I tried to put everybody's issue out on here, and
Thank you.
We're just so happy to have keep this issue out in the public and stuff. And
give us an address, please, that we can get to that. How we can get
YOUARE
Dr. Norms, I
just
put it in the link. You don't have to do that. I just put your information
very good
in the chat.
Thank you for doing that, Belinda. And
thank you very much.
Belinda. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Someone else was about to make a comment. Was that Dr. Cheek? Who was that? Someone started to speak.
I think that's Dr. Jackson. Go ahead,
Okay,
Dr. Jackson.
Dr. Jackson. Dr. Jackson, are you there?
Is when doctors are being indicted, they have to challenge the indictment under Grand Jury Rule 6. They got to challenge the indictment. They got to challenge the grand jury. They got to challenge the presentment of the prosecutors. See,
Dr. Jackson,
she's talking about some of the things that
fading it out. Listen, everybody, I'm sorry, everybody. It is 6:25, and we got to draw this to an end. It is our commitment to end at 6:30, so that we can get people, give people the opportunity to go throughout the rest of their evening and eat and all that stuff, take care of their families. So we got to be considerate in that way. So let me say, Sister Belinda, are there any just final closing remarks that you want to say to everyone before we begin to close with announcements?
I had Richard. I wanted to give Richard the opportunity to give us some closing marks with some exciting things that's happening right now that we hope to see in the near future. And I think he had to drop the call. But you can go ahead and move. Richard, are you there? Richard, were you able to get back on? Okay, Pastor Manning, you can go ahead and move the meeting, and that's it.
All right. I want to thank each of our panelists for giving us and educating us on this issue and alerting us to what's going on exactly and how we can help and coming up with some solutions. Definitely want to stay tuned for more information and look forward to you all who are deeply entrenched in this issue and affected by it to give us more information as we go on and maybe present on this again at another time as to how we can get involved and help to create policy that's going to protect our Black and brown doctors especially. So with that said, let's close with some announcements. Does anybody have any announcements about any upcoming events that we need to be aware of so that we can participate in? Of course, we know Mardi Gras is coming up, all kinds of events there. But what are those areas where we can show up and stand in solidarity alongside somebody to make sure that we work for justice? Any events coming up that we need to know about?
No. Continue to read youarewithinthenorms.com.
Dr.
Keep
Norm,
updates.
I got your information. Pastor Manning, I saved my announcement for the last closing marks. If we don't have any other announcement, I want to be very respectful.
Let me see.
I would like to say something.
Yes, please.
People need to get out there in the parades. There needs to be, it doesn't help to have protests. Nobody shows up. You're talking to the choir. But parades, in my opinion, is the answer to getting the word out. So when we're having the Memorial Day parade, when we're having the Juneteenth parades, when we're having the Veterans Day parades, we need to get out there and express our feelings to the population. That's where you'll get to the most people. That's a suggestion.
Good strategy. Thank you for that. Any other announcements?
Yes, I've opened a free clinic at 1835 Bienville in New Orleans. It is a truly free clinic. No one will be required to pay any money whatsoever. It is a joint operation between me, the NAACP, and St. James Church off of Roman Street. The clinic will be opening within the next 2 weeks. I'll be sure to send you all at Justice and Beyond notification, and you'll have a place for people to come and get seen for free.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Any other announcements?
I just want to give my announcement. First of all, I want to thank all the people that participated in this discussion on tonight, Pastor Manning. It really means a lot. You know that LUI, Louisiana United International, and AUI, America United International, that have been in this for the last 7 years, along with Dr. Zena Crenshaw, that wrote to the United Nations on behalf of this type of weaponization when it comes to attacking brown and black doctors and just the overall marginalization of black and brown people. So I just want to say, I would love for people to go to our website, read about us, get involved, support us in this effort, because everyone is not going to unite with us on this, but we have to unite ourselves, our constituents, our doctors that are being attacked, because it is devastating, the tyranny. And just speaking with Dr. Jones and Dr. Norm, how they are victims of this type of treatment. It is outrageous, and we all should be outraged about it.
Yes.
So thank Justice and Beyond for giving this opportunity. I hope that this is not the last one, but we should have many more in regards to this discussion. Thank you, Pastor Manning.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
very much.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate everybody's expertise and the information that you gave to us tonight. That should help to motivate us. And really what we want to do is come up with solutions. So however we can stand together, please let us know when you're meeting with folks. Let's develop that succinct messaging that is also inclusive of all of our doctors and all over the United States that are being affected by this, because it affects us all. With that said, we're going to close with the word of prayer, as we do always at Justice and Beyond, as we end this meeting on tonight. Dear God, creator of all, God, we ask a blessing upon every a person that is in our healthcare system, especially our doctors. We know they have a tremendous calling and task, and God, we pray that there would be justice that would prevail, especially in this case where they are suffering undue attack and assault in order to destroy them and to do greater harm to black and brown people across the board. And so, God, help us come up with solution. Allow our minds to work in such a way. And God, we pray that all those walls that are separating us from getting to the people that can move the needle, such as Senator Warnock, would just be torn down, so that we can get these meetings and begin to make things happen. God, let us never lose hope. That we are making a difference, that we can make a difference. Let us shout even more louder, so that we can say that we will not stop until change happens. So God, I ask a blessing upon each one gathered here tonight. Keep them safe until we meet again. We ask this in the name of Almighty God and my Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody. God bless you, and be safe and be kind to one another. Have a good night.
Thank
All right.
you, Pastor Manning. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you all. Good
Thank
night.
you.